People say slow and steady wins the race. Well, Royal Enfield took that philosophy and ran with it, because while we were over here making jokes about Meteor 350 owners, they were busy stacking up that paper and selling bikes by the millions. More recently, Royal Enfield surpassed selling 1 million motorcycles in a single year. And if you're used to Honda numbers, sort of the dozens of millions of bikes sold every year, that may not impress you. But Royal Enfield's made significant strides in the last couple of years. In the last 10 years, Royal Enfield went from being the punching bag of the motorcycle industry, building bikes that were kind of suspect in terms of performance and reliability, to being legitimately one of the biggest motorcycle brands on earth. Few manufacturers are in the news as often as Royal Enfield, while they continuously make new models or are posting record-breaking sales. So how did they do it? How did Royal Enfield go from building World War era motorcycles to all of a sudden making stuff that's reliable, cool, and enjoyed by millions of people? Let's find out how Royal Enfield quietly took over the motorcycling world. While the last decade has been monumental for Royal Enfield's growth, we really got to talk about the whole history of the company and wind the clock back a little bit, because they've had one of the strangest and wildest journeys to get here. The company started all the way back in 1901 in England, which actually makes it the longest running motorcycle brand in history. Their slogan was "Made like a gun." Bet you liberals wouldn't let that fly today, am I right? They were building military bikes, utilitarian machines, and rugged commuters. Fast forward to the 1950s, and Royal Enfield started exporting to India with their iconic Bullet 350. The Indian Army liked the simplicity of the Bullet 350 so much that they started locally assembling them. By the 1970s, the original British operation had shut down, but the Indian operation kept going. They essentially became their own thing, building bikes for India's tough and challenging terrain, steep hills, and the demands of workhorse commuter vehicles. The bikes were charming, but a little outdated, and their reputation for reliability wasn't really that stellar. But as India's economy grew and became younger, Royal Enfield all of a sudden had a kind of retro brand cachet to it. The younger crowd started embracing it as a style statement. Everyone from commuters to hipsters to Bollywood actors wanted to be seen on a Royal Enfield. So by the time 2015 rolled around, Royal Enfield was already selling tons of bikes in its local domestic market, and it was primed for world domination. Back in 2015, Royal Enfield was mostly an Indian phenomenon. They were selling like crazy in their home market. Bikes like the classic 350 and 500 were large contributors to that. They had charming, cool retro looks, but were a little down on horsepower. But behind the scenes, a bigger plan was unfolding. Siddhartha Lal, who is affectionately known as Sid, who is the CEO of Eicher Motors, made a really big bet. He sold off the company's other divisions and went 100% all in on motorcycles. And it paid off big time. Royal Enfield set up a massive new facility near Chennai and set up its first direct distribution subsidiary outside of India in North America. They ramped up production and quietly made their motorcycles way more reliable. This was the beginning of the modern Royal Enfield. In 2018, Royal Enfield dropped the Interceptor 650 and Continental GT. Fun fact, that bike actually had to be sold as the INT 650 here in North America because Honda owned the trademark to the Interceptor name. Parallel twins, fuel-injected, 6-speed gearboxes, and styling straight out of the 1960s. Kinda sounds like a page out of the Triumph playbook if you ask me. While these are far from fire-breathing machines, they represented a big departure from the very pedestrian Indian-made commuter machines that they had been pushing for so long. These bikes were simple and robust, but the real kicker, they were about half the price of what you'd normally come to expect from a Triumph Bonneville or a Ducati Scrambler that offered you similar vintage retro charm. And they were surprisingly good for what they were. Reviewers couldn't believe how refined, fun, and affordable these new Royal Enfields were. The The Interceptor even won Motorcycle News' Retro Bike of the Year award several years in a row. Royal Enfield didn't just make a better bike, they made a better deal. And global riders were all here for it. Despite the global pandemic in the 2020s, Royal Enfield saw enough sales to realize that they were going to weather that storm. They managed to sell nearly 40,000 motorcycles in June of 2020 alone, with the Interceptor 650 being the best-selling motorcycle of the summer in Europe. They further refined their 350cc platform by making things like the Hunter 350, which also proved to be very popular. Royal Enfield focused on affordability at a time when a lot of people were experiencing yet another once-in-a-lifetime economic event of uncertainty. That was definitely a smart move on their part. They simultaneously improved the tech on their motorcycles and their branding and marketing. Suzuki sells $20,000 flagship motorcycles while having a website that still looks like it was made by a freshman in an intro to HTML class. And look, you might say, yeah, that is a really small detail to focus on. Who cares what Suzuki's website looks like? But it's indicative of how Royal Enfield really understands their younger demographic, which is critical to them selling more motorcycles. In the last few years, Royal Enfield has made some serious strides. They've been expanding on their 650 category of motorcycles, such as the Super Meteor 650 and the Shotgun 650. While these certainly seem relatively tame in comparison to fire-breathing superbikes from other manufacturers, it represents a very significant improvement and stride in technology for this company that, again, was known for building pretty rudimentary motorcycles. I mean, they didn't even make a 650cc motorcycle until 2018, you know. So considering that they took that rudimentary approach for so long on their motorcycles, this advancement in such a short amount of time is really impressive. It's sort of like how it only took 66 years from the Wright brothers' first flight to the Apollo 11 moon landing. Sometimes once momentum kicks in, it's kind of hard to stop. And it's not just the 650 platform that's bolstering Royal Enfield's success. They also have the new Himalayan 450, which is a night and day departure from the Himalayan 411 that it supplanted. The new 450 is a liquid-cooled motor. It's modern. It has a ride-by-wire throttle. The new motorcycle has a TFT display, switchable ride modes, and ABS. This is all stuff that was completely unthinkable on a Royal Enfield just 10 years ago. But, and critically, in typical Royal Enfield fashion, this bike costs less than $6,000. It's not just good for the price anymore. The new Himalayan 450 competes squarely against the new entry-level adventure category from KTM and even CF Moto. They're quietly evolving from a retro brand to something that's genuinely competing across multiple categories. And if you're not paying attention, you're gonna miss out. Not to mention the fact that everybody is producing small displacement motorcycles in India now as part of their strategy. Look at Triumph, look at Aprilia. You don't think Royal Enfield has an advantage by already producing motorcycles there? And I really don't think that would have become the obvious choice of manufacturing bikes, balancing quality and affordability, if Royal Enfield had not been already doing it for years.
If you've been watching the channel for a while, you're bound to know that we're partial to rock form handlebar mounts and phone cases around here. I'll always keep a mount on the giveaway bike as well as my personal bike, which always comes in handy if I'm doing a longer ride where I need GPS navigation. Just when I thought Rockform's lineup of motorcycle products couldn't get any better, I'm excited to share with you that they've just recently released a brand new mounting system that maximizes your options for adjustability and convenience. The new Pro Ball mount is the most functional mounting system yet. It uses a universal handlebar mount that's compatible with handlebar diameters from 7/8 all the way to 1.5 inches, includes 5 different spacers to ensure a perfect fit. The double ball joint provides endless options for adjustability, so you can get the perfect viewing angle no matter what your bike setup is like. The Pro Ball mount is made of CNC aircraft grade aluminum with stainless steel hardware, so it's built to stand the test of time no matter how aggressive your riding is. The Rockform Pro Ball mount is an awesome addition to the line of products, so if you haven't gotten a Rockform mount yet or you're looking for an upgrade, click the link in the description and use the code YN25 to receive 25% off your order. That's 25% off using code YN25. Thanks so much to Rockform for the continued support on the channel. Now let's get back to the show.
Royal Enfield didn't just build bikes over the last decade, they actually built a movement. They knew that to succeed globally, they couldn't just build a bike, but they had to build something bigger than that. In India, they launched massive events like Rider Mania, which is a 3-day festival that combines motorcycles and music and attracts thousands of Enfield devotees across the whole country. Globally, they created One Ride, which is a single-day event over 50 different countries where Royal Enfield owners go for a ride. They even created Royal Enfield Custom World, which is a program that supports builders and artists creating wild one-off machines. So everything from desert sleds to bobbers or cafe racers and anything in between. And then the massive plot twist that nobody expected, they went racing. Royal Enfield launched the GT Cup, which was a spec series based on their Royal Enfield Continental GT. These bikes were tuned for the track, but still very relatable to the average rider, giving enthusiasts the chance to push their bikes to the limit. Look, it wasn't MotoGP, but that's not the point. This made racing accessible, it was fun, and it helped promote the series. They also launched one of my favorite endeavors, the BTR, the Build Train Race program. The racing series further established the 650's chops as a modder's dream. You could flip through the parts catalog and get things from S&S and other reputable companies to install on your 650 and go fast. Royal Enfields might be simple, but that simplicity lends itself really well to customizability, having it be pretty easy to install big bore kits or exhausts or any other kind of changes. But if you're gonna do anything to a Royal Enfield, I highly recommend swapping out the tires that they come with. I actually had a pretty close call with one on track as pictured here, and I'd highly recommend swapping to something a little bit grippier. Royal Enfield didn't stop at creating their own racing series either. They supported categories and classes at the Bonneville Salt Flats using a Continental GT to actually set a record in its category. Royal Enfields managed to do something kind of amazing if you think about it. They've created a brand that has global reach, but still feels authentic and inclusive. Whether you're a commuter in Delhi, a cafe racer guy in London, or a student in the US, they've got a Royal Enfield for you that you can feel attached to. But Royal Enfield has a line to toe if they want to remain successful in the future. They have to continue to be accessible and inclusive, which was a core part of their strategy, but they have to innovate more in the future if they want to maintain relevancy in the new categories that they're reaching. They recently announced their Fly Flea EV model, which is a push towards the future. They have their new Bear 650 Scrambler, which I gotta admit, we're kind of reaching peak 650 models here, and also the new Himalayan 750, which has been scene tested. While posting record-breaking year after year, continuing to build affordable models that have charm and great upmarket looks and attractive qualities to them, Royal Enfield kind of has the motorcycling world by their balls right now. Sure, you can produce high-end BMW adventure bikes, ultra spicy Ducati race models, or stupid Harley Davidsons with $10,000 paint schemes, and plenty of people will buy them. But if you're thinking long-term and prioritizing global appeal, and you want to put meat in seats, Royal Enfield kind of has that system locked down. 10 years ago, if you had told me that Royal Enfield would have been winning over adventure riders, cafe racer kids, and competing against the top motorcycle brands in the world, I probably would have laughed at you. But now, they're laughing all the way to the bank. They stuck to a clear vision, improved slowly and steadily, and they never forgot what made people love them in the first place. The question now isn't, can Royal Enfield keep growing? It's, who's gonna stop them? What do you guys think? Are you a supporter of Royal Enfield, or is your fast boy ego too hardened over years of doing fast pulls to allow you to see the big picture? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I've been lucky enough to be invited to several Royal Enfield global press events, and honestly, it's very impressive what the company is doing. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing them operating in the intermediate and maybe even expert bike categories. But I do think that they're gonna stick to that value-driven, affordable motorcycle, because guess what? A lot of people are buying these things. Thanks for checking out today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you in the next one. See you later. Keep watching Yummy Nerd.